Hey everybody, how are you doing? My name is JT Kaz, and uh, this is about what I thought I knew. If only I knew this as a young African Christian. But before I do that, I'm gonna go through this little poem here. It doesn't have a name, but we'll go with it. So, beholding the golden unspoken, the hidden mind's taste as thoughts, hidden in the nets that trapped my next steps, gliding through a greasy wire suspended between my thoughts and unspoken words, hiding and holding back what makes apart my heart but parts my lips in sinister joy. The unspoken holes poking me. Thank God for the Holy Spirit, giving me and feeling me with profound new meaning. So, yeah, this one's a very short one. So, you can suggest a name before I come up with one. Yeah, so if only I knew this as an African, this is a very important thing for me because as an African, everything that I thought, especially when I was young, was based on, or in fact, everyone learns everything that we know through other people. And especially when we're young, everything we know is basically from when we're still young. So the more we grow on the foundation of the information when we're young. So as a young African, the the foundation of the knowledge that I had of what the Bible was. And when you're young, you're very zealous. You're very willing to learn about God and the Bible. That's when it has the biggest impact on you. So when it had the biggest impact when I was young, it was also at a stage when I was questioning how it's all about white people. Not even Israeli people, not even ancient Israelites, but it was just something that I just used to think and question to myself. Like, what about Chinese or Indian people? What about Mexican people? You know? So it's something that I had. And through that, that's how I made sense of the world, because through that, it just made sense of the world because it's a belief system that is regional and religional and cultural, right? So it's like how we learn language. So it's also how we end up having words and how any word is associated with an image. So we associate the image of whatever word we can have has an image. If I say elephant, there's an image that actually happens spiritually. And that's how words work somehow, because words are so supernatural. So it's like when you have the word and then when you also have the race and then it's attached to one thing and the same. Is that when you're young, you're supposed to have the faith of a child, and our belief as African people since the beginning of every country's beginning in Africa. And it is young both in those terms, and it is young both in terms of the ages in Africa, just like how the ages in Japan are the oldest. So when we are the youngest continent, we are also talking about that in that way, like as young Africans, as a young African continent. But then as we are young humans, we're also talking about that like actually as people who learn history and know what is happening so that we can shape a better future. So when you know that and you attach it with your faith, the faith of a child, the faith of an African child, because we've expanded the meaning of the African child. So with the faith of the African child, when you attach that meaning and that word to race, that ended up having this association with God being white, which we all know. So it's that association that made everything like that is a very interesting thing that when you look about it in the Bible, it makes reference to it. But then when you look in the Bible, it talks about where Jesus literally came from in Nazareth in Bethlehem, but you never see him looking like the people from Nazareth or from Bethlehem. And when you first hear people talking about the possibility of that, it sounds crazy. But what's more important is it actually even found in the Bible? So this is where it gets interesting. So I'm going to go to Isaiah. So Isaiah 1 verse 3. It says, "The ox knows his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel does not know. My people do not consider." So this is a very powerful verse that's talking about our knowledge of the past, because the ox is talking about where it comes from and where it lives. And then the ass is master's crib, but Israel does not know. My people do not consider. And this last part is where it's more of a commandment or of a verb, of a doing word. When you picture consideration, you're picturing an action, contemplative action, spiritual action as well, because a thought has the spiritual attachment of the word, just like how we've expanded the understanding of what we can picture when we are talking about the African child. So it is the same thing that we're supposed to consider when we consider the past. What exactly are we thinking about? What exactly are we referencing? Because this God is saying in the Bible that you have to look at the past, like how the ox would trace its past. Even the ox is smart enough. So we have to be smarter than that. And then the other one is in Second Thessalonians. Second Thessalonians. So this is a rather long chapter, but I'm just gonna go through something here, which is Second Thessalonians 2 verse 3. It says, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there be a falling away first, and that a man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, or all that is worshipped, so that he, as God, sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God." Right? Who opposes and exalts everything above, so that he, as God, sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Remember, you know that so this is, "For the mystery of iniquity does already work, for he who lets will let only he be taken away." So this goes on to say something very strange, right? But before we even go to something that's even stranger, when you read that, it's very interesting. But it's saying that son of perdition goes into the temple of God, sits in the temple of God, and shows himself to be like God, but he's not God. Why would someone do that? And why would the Bible say that someone would do that in the first place? Before there were temples of God, because this is written to Timothy in to the Thessalonians by Paul, which means that this was before they were like building temples and churches. So it's a prophecy. Interesting. So it's things like this that I think I wish I would have considered more, because this Bible, you need to take it with meditation and actually read it, think about it, read it again, think about it some more, and keep on doing that, because to whom shall we teach knowledge? Line by line, here a little, there a little. So when we read this as a young African person, people, it is for us to consider, as the word says. So thank you a lot for watching this with me. See you next time.